Yay! So, rebels who are watching this recording, this is Alice, who is a wonderful creature that I've not spoken to for a good while properly. So I'm very glad to have her here. And we thought we would combine our catch up with a little interview, because Alice is up to all sorts at the moment and has so much wisdom to give and so much experience that I think our rebel world will really benefit from. So you did a masterclass for us in the VIP club, the Rebel Yell Club, a while ago, didn't you? That was last
Yeah,
year.
I know. I was thinking about that, and I was like, "Where the bloody hell is the year gone?"
I know, it's
It's
crazy,
like
isn't
winter. I actually referred to somebody the other day. I said something 2021, and they were like, "It's actually 2022, Alice." I was like, "Shit."
it? It's so annoying when that happens. And then you think, oh, well, that means I must be a year older than I thought.
Oh God, yeah, don't even tell me about that. It's my birthday tomorrow, and I'm like, and my nan, bless her, she's like, "How old are you again now?" And I'm like,
Too many fingers.
yeah. I haven't got enough hands.
Well, happy birthday for tomorrow, Alice,
Thank
from all of
you.
the rebels.
Yeah, thank you.
So you did that masterclass for us, and it was absolutely phenomenal. So tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do, and why really you're sort of passionate about what you do.
Yeah.
It's a
Oh,
big
thank you
question
so
all in
much.
one.
Yeah, okay, cool. Let's do it. No, no. Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. And I love our catch-ups, and also for the rebels watching this as well. Thank you for tuning in. So yeah, I kind of call myself a life coach, but I specialize in time management and energy management. And if you're thinking energy management, what? Like, hang on,
Not
bear with
about
me.
electricity and gas for a
No,
change.
don't worry. I'm not about to, like, I know energy rights bills are rising in the UK here, but yeah, I'm not about to flog you or anything. Um, so yeah, the reason why I'll tell you a little bit more about what that means for me, because it also does connect to my story and how I got to like where I am today. So we've got to go back a few years. And unfortunately, when I was in my teens growing up, probably like a lot of us, really, really struggled to know who I was. I just felt like I never fitted in, and I had like no confidence whatsoever. I had loads of issues with my mum. Unfortunately, that spiraled into a really, really bad eating disorder, self harm, really poor mental health. And I really developed like this kind of woe me victim mindset. And I had this I probably battled this for about a decade. And it wasn't until like my mid 20s that I think it was reading the book The Secret, that I suddenly realized I was more in control of my situation than what I was pretending to be. So there I am, like, whoa, me, life's terrible, and, things aren't perfect. And I was such a terrible perfectionist. And I suddenly realized through reading this book that I had the opportunity to change things based on my thought and my mindset and all that kind of thing. So that propelled me into this amazing world and journey of personal development. And then I realized life could be amazing, and I didn't have to be sad and depressed, and I could do all this cool shit. And I then became obsessed with time management because I felt like I'd wasted this decade. So I was like, right, making up for lost time, I'm still in my early mid 20s. That's it. I'm gunning for it. So I became obsessed with productivity to the point where I probably took it too far, because then I started to attach my self-worth to my productivity. I was one of those people that I couldn't switch off. If I wasn't constantly busy, I felt like I wasn't like adding value. Sure, I could watch a film with friends, but the thought of like having self-care for myself. And yes, I went to the gym, but it was very much more of a like, go to the gym to beat yourself to fit into your skinny jeans, that kind of thing. It was just not from the right place. And I did that for, oh God, maybe 5, 6 years. And in my desperation to kind of make up for lost time and, just uh, catch up really, and this like obsession with like always utilizing every single minute, I ended up burning out in 2019. And I think from the outside, I looked shit hot at time management. Queen of planning, strategizing, love a good Excel, like calendar is like spot on, like organized. I'm that girl that at work, give me multiple things to do, always meet the deadlines. And I did everything. But I never looked after me, and I never looked after my energy. And then when I burned out, I suddenly was like, where did that come from? Like, I'm so good at time management. And then I realized I wasn't sleeping properly. I was burning the candle at both ends. I wasn't looking after my mindset. So I wasn't doing the work in what I call like the inner work. So meditation, journaling, reflection, coaching, you know, all that good juicy stuff. I wasn't doing that. So I wasn't looking after my energy, my vibes. And it just suddenly became apparent to me that time management's so important, because like nobody wants to waste time. We're never going to get that back. But actually, we need to combine it also with a bit of energy management as well. So how we look after ourselves holistically, our health, the vibes that we're showing up for something, our mindset, uh, everything. And also as women, like our hormones that can change depending on the time of the month, or
Yeah.
even things like the environment. You know, at the moment I'm at my nan's, hence the glorious background.
I was going to say about your nan's house.
You know, but the energy I have at my nan's is so different from the energy that I would have at my place, because you know I'm in someone else's environment. I haven't got my routine, like the decor's not to my liking, you know. So all these things impact you, like everything. So that is why I became obsessed, not just with time management, but then hang on a minute, it needs to be combined with energy management. And that is why, as a life coach, that's what I specialize in now. Is like, yeah, time management, but also I like to combine it with energy management to like really supercharge our life by design, our results, or our business, or whatever it is that we're
Yeah.
working on.
That's amazing. I've always liked the fact that you focus on energy management, as well as time management, or possibly over time management, because I think that's,
Yeah.
you know, quite often the thing that we miss out, isn't it? I've had a number of conversations with business clients recently. Excuse me, the Percy's scratching at the wall. Oh no, he's trying to tear up a toilet roll holder. Apologies for the background noise. I'll try not to take that joy away from him. So yeah, I had conversations with some businesses, you know, a couple of businesses recently, around helping their people with time management, and I have really tried to help them understand that it's not about prioritizing and using a matrix, a most important, you know, sort of Stephen Covey and all of that good stuff's amazing. And there's, you know, lots of brilliant ways you can make different lists and organize your calendar and all of that stuff. But actually, none of that is going to be sustainable unless you are managing your mindset and your emotions and your energy and all that internal stuff.
Oh my God.
That is actually causing problems in the first place.
Yeah, absolutely. Like especially as well with businesses, or if you're going for a big goal, you could have the best strategy in the world, but if you're not combining it with the right energy, then you're not going to execute that strategy. And if you do execute your strategy, you're not going to do it in a way that's like optimizing your time and effort. Like you're not going to get as much bang for your buck from it. So then you end up just like slogging away and doing the hours and going, why is it not working? Why does this feel so hard? Why is it not in flow? And it's like, yeah, because it isn't just I think we're very quick as society just to go straight to the practical, like, oh, right,
Yes.
get a Gantt chart up, get a strategy in. Yeah, that's really important. Like you say, you know, your matrices and stuff. But yeah, it's also what you're bringing to the table, how you're thinking and feeling, that energy that you're bringing as well is like so important. And I think it's really underestimated as well.
Oh, it so is, particularly in the business world. I think, you know, in corporates especially, you know, people get bogged down, like you say, with the task, very much do driven rather than planning and reviewing and checking. And, you know, although I went into continuous improvement mode there, ever so slightly. And I think, you know, this stuff, in my experience, sorry, I got a hair on my face. In my experience, I have to keep revisiting it and readjusting,
Yeah.
and you know, getting sort of stripping back and getting back to it. And I think, you know, it's probably energy management is probably one of my biggest challenges, and I'm more than happy to admit that. You know, I'm definitely not the best at it. How do you find it? Are you sort of kind of, have you got this kick-ass mode that just works all the time, or do you have moments where you have to kind of step back and do, you know, a rethink?
Yeah. Oh my God. I'd say the first thing that comes to energy management is awareness. Like, you have to have awareness, because we are all different. So I'm probably seen as like an expert in it, and people will go, right, what's your top tip? Well, how can I give you a top tip? Because your life is going to be so different from your life. Like, it's not a one size fits all. And time management can fall into that bracket of one size fits all. Like, here's the best planner, and we all know the good time management hacks as well. Like, put your phone notifications off, and
put it in
don't
another
work too late. Yeah, all those kind of things. Those kind of one size fits all things do work. But when it comes to your energy management, we're so different. I don't know if you're a morning person or you're a lark. I don't know your
Definitely not.
chronotype. I don't know your chronotype. I also don't know your preferences. Also, what might be an energy filler for me might be an energy drainer for you. So anything to do with like accounts and numbers, like, no, but I've got loads of mates who are accountants, so I'm pretty sure that's their bag. So, like, everybody's different. I personally love stuff like public speaking, doing content, doing stuff like that. Like, I'll come off this call buzzing, but someone else, that's their like worst nightmare. They'd be like, no, I need a whole day break after that.
Yes.
So I'd say the first thing when it comes to your energy management, you've got to have that awareness. What's working for you? What's not? What's your energy drainers? What's your energy fillers? What's your optimum time of day? What's not? You a morning person? Do you get the afternoon slump? A Friday's a no-go for you because you just caned it Monday to Thursday, and come Friday you're knackered. And there's nothing wrong with any of that. So what we tend to do is try and fight it, especially if we like planned according to the clock, typical time management. Again, really important. I love planning, but we've also got to be really honest with ourselves and go, do you know what? Maybe don't put the big meeting in for a Friday if you know that your energy levels are lacking by then. Or, people say the best time to exercise is in the morning. Yeah, well, if you're not a morning person, maybe it's not. It's got to work for you. So definitely have that awareness, because it's only since having that awareness for myself that I've been able to work out when's the time to kick ass and go, and when's the time to pull back. And you can only do that when you've got that awareness. And also, you have to learn to pull back, especially if you are a bit of a perfectionist. You've got your own business. We live in this very on productive go lifestyle, and you've got to be able to sometimes to go, no, I need an hour out, I need a day out, I need a week out, wherever it is. And again, you can only do that if you've got awareness. So in answer to your question, sometimes I'm ready to kick ass, and like, I will bust out a 10-hour workday, and then other days, no. Because it depends on where you're at, what you're doing, what your needs are. A whole multitude of energy sort of like determiners, which could be anything from the moon to what you've eaten to what's emotionally going on for you. And you've got to do that with awareness. You've got to tailor it.
So true. It's one of the things that I've always really liked about you, Alice, is the fact that you practice what you preach, but you're also of the school of thought that I'm in, that as an expert in our fields, and people who provide a service to others that help them be happier and healthier and all of those things, we're also not the kinds of coaches that are pretending that everything is perfect. And I have said many times publicly, if you ever catch me in a first class plane seat in a photo shoot with a diamante leather jacket on and a rhinestone encrusted laptop with a big smile on my face, give me a big slap, because I am not that person, right? And I am quite happy to be, well, not always happy to be, but I embrace the fact that I have to be vulnerable sometimes. And I think,
I love that.
And I think there is a movement of people in our kind of jobs who are starting to be like that, because it connects with people better. And I think that in a way is actually quite rebellious in itself.
Oh my God, yeah.
It totally is, isn't it? I had a conversation with my lovely friend Helen Shanley, shout out, last week, and I was struggling. And I've had a number of sort of challenges around it, probably a lot of it around energy management actually recently. And I was we were having afternoon tea, you know, like you do, like that sounds like I'm really struggling. But I was having some time out with Helen, and well needed, and it was very rejuvenating. And I was kind of talking about some stuff I was struggling with. And she sat there and she said to me, what would you do if you were coaching someone who is saying exactly the same things as you're saying now? And that, you know, it's those things that really, it doesn't matter how good you are at a thing, you need to have a support network around you.
My God,
or people who, you know, an expert who you pay to help you. And that is, you know, that makes you better at your craft, doesn't it, at your art. And I think it would be a good moment for us to actually talk about some of the things that you're offering at the moment, because you've got some brilliant things, and I know you're launching something new, aren't you?
Yeah, we launched this week. So I've done it in like typically I've been one of those people that hated birthdays, but since having my business, I'm like, do you know what? I'm gonna rebrand it, and I'm gonna like use birthdays as an opportunity to celebrate with others rather than just like, oh, and you know, I've never particularly like been one for birthdays. So coinciding with my birthday week, I have launched my energy management program, which I'm very, very excited about. Because we've got the early bird on at the moment. But yeah, the energy management program, I'm so excited about this, because literally everything that we're talking about, I've packaged up into this program, which I've never done before. Normally I've like focused on time management, so my signature course is on time management, but then the energy management in the module of the time management course got such like interest, and people wanted to know more about that. We've taken that and like really drilled deep, because there's so many layers to energy.
Yeah.
It's
And well
it's
done for
physical,
listening
mental,
to that
cognitive.
nudge.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm super, super excited about that. And I've also got my energy management event and experience on the 20th as well, which is a free one as well. Because sometimes like people are like, energy, what? Like,
Yeah.
it sounds interesting. Sounds like something. Don't know what it is. So
Yeah,
if you're in that camp, then that event on the 20th is for you. Especially as well, it's going to be combined with a WhatsApp group for a couple of weeks, which I've never done again before, never done this before, but I just thought, you know, when you go into a webinar and you go, oh, that was interesting, and then you do like sweet FA afterwards.
Yeah.
And I thought, don't want that. So there's going to be a WhatsApp support group with it open for a week before and a week after, as well as additional resources, because otherwise you just get all excited about coming to an event and go, oh, that was interesting, learnt lots, and you've got no support and accountability afterwards, have you, to actually implement what you learn. So yeah, we're doing that a little bit different. Yeah.
Oh, I'd be really interested to see how you get on with that, what that part of it. That's really cool. So that's on the 20th of September.
Yeah.
So just for the purposes of people watching in the future, 20th of September 2022. If you're past that date already and you're watching this in the future, ever so sorry, but I'm sure Alice has got other stuff going on that you can hop onto. So how do people who are not in the future, how do they get hold of a spot on that event then on the 20th?
Yeah, so people are more than welcome to head to my website, which is just really easy. It's my name, alicedartnell.com, or I'm always active on Instagram. I love saying hello to people. So yeah, just feel free to find me on Instagram, drop me a DM or comment in like one of my posts or something. My Instagram is just alice_Dartnell. So yeah, come say hi. And also if this is resonating as well, and people going, because often I get people go, energy management, yeah, that makes so much sense, but I have no idea where to begin. Again, drop me a comment, drop me a DM or whatever, and I'll get you going in the right direction. Because yeah, for a lot of people, this isn't new. This is like a new way of looking at time. It's like turned time and clock management on its head.
Yeah. Well, we'll put those links in the YouTube description so people can get those easily as well. Yeah. And the big event, when does that start? When does that launch?
What, the program?
Yeah, that's the word I was looking.
Yeah, so we're starting 20th October. We've actually already sold 50% of the seats, and I've even had people say to me, oh, I can't do it this time round, are you running it next year? And I was like, well, I am now.
I have to.
So we've actually already got 3 ladies on for April next year. And the reason why I've
Wow.
done it for April is because I'm actually going traveling in February and March next year. So again, my own energy management, my own time management. I was like, I realistically, when I'm like hiking in Patagonia and got no internet, probs aren't going to be able to do a good job running a program. So we've got to wait until I'm back, I'm afraid, and we'll do that in April. But it's good timing because we'll get wrapped up before the summer. So if you are someone who wants to have an amazing summer, then April might be a good time for you as well. But if
Yeah.
not, October this year, 2022, or April 2023.
I think they're really good points in the year to do
Yeah.
that, aren't they? Now let's talk about your traveling, because you seem to me these days to be a bit of a free spirit. So you're in your nan's house because
Yeah.
you don't live in the UK anymore, do you? You live in Valencia, beautiful
Yeah.
Valencia, and you also have family in Cambodia. Is
Yeah.
that right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And you do like a bit of a travel around the world. And I know that this is probably not something that you've done all of your life. I suspect from your story that you've sort of given yourself almost a pair of wings to go and do your thing and see the world and be yourself and be your own little version of beautiful rebellion. So would you be happy to tell people a little bit about why that's the case then?
Yeah, of course, of course. So I've always loved travel. I've been really, really lucky that I was an only child and my mum and dad hated England. So even though I grew up in England, as you can tell by my accent, my mum's actually Japanese, my dad's English.
Oh,
I
beautiful.
grew up in Kent. But my mum and dad have always loved travel, and they've always loved the Far East. So I think my first trip to the Far East, I was like 8 years old. So I've been super blessed with always been exposed to like travel, and I've been to like some incredible places. Combine that with the fact that my mum is Japanese, so my family are from Japan. I've got to go there as well. So yeah, always been blessed with that. But it has generally typically been like, a 3 week trip to Sri Lanka or a 3 week trip to Peru, which obviously is incredible. But and I've done like 5 weeks in Japan and stuff like that. So I've done some big trips, but never like traveling with a business because I've always worked in corporate. So it wasn't until 2020 that I was like, right, I want to like travel a little bit more, set up this online business. And then obviously it was COVID. So that was a big no-no. And then just to add another spanner in the works, later on in 2020 during the pandemic, my husband just suddenly walked out on me as well. So now I find myself just starting this business, stuck in lockdown, no husband, no job. And I was just like, right, it's now or never. And I really am letting go of my perfectionist ways. So I don't believe there is a perfect time for anything. But I also appreciate that tomorrow's not guaranteed. And I think lockdown taught me that as well, where you're like, yeah, this year I'm going to do X, Y, and Z. And then suddenly put our lives on hold for 2 years. And things like I can't actually get to Japan at the moment because I'm not a resident and they're not allowing tourists in. So it's like, I want to go see my family, but I can't. We take these things for granted. And I just suddenly thought, I need to live the life that I said I wanted to live, which was like you say, spread my wings, travel with my business. It's an online business. My clients are everywhere from the Middle East to America. Does it matter to them if I'm in London or Valencia or anywhere else? And I just really had like this wake up call where I was like, if not now, when? And I'm not claiming it's easy. Like it obviously it takes an immense amount of planning. Got to look after your energy if you're climbing on board a plane like every couple of weeks. You've got to look after yourself. But yeah, that whole experience of 2020 with lockdown, starting the business, my husband walking out, just really made me assess like, how do I want to live my life? And I talk a lot about life by design, and it's like, right, okay, well, this is it. And then when I moved to Valencia in March, again, I'm not going to pretend that that was easy. I couldn't speak Spanish. I knew no one there. I'd only been to Valencia once about 5 years ago. And, I went back for a quick visit just to make sure that was what I wanted to do. But now I suddenly found myself at 35, enrolled into Spanish school, trying to run an international online business, not knowing where anything is in the supermarket because I can't bloody speak the language. And it was just like, whoa, this is a lot. So I'm not one of these people to sugarcoat stuff, but I that was the choice. That's what I wanted to do. And I've
Yeah.
been really lucky that I have been able to travel with the business. Like, I took a week to Granada because I could take my laptop, and I was like, well, I'm in Spain, I might as well. Gonna go to Cambodia and Vietnam for 4 or 5 weeks at Christmas. Again, take my laptop, see my family. And then when my friend said to me, South America, and I was like, yeah, why the fuck not? Because
Yeah.
if not now, when? I was like, I've got
Okay.
no ties, I've got no house, no husband, no boss, no official formal office. You just got to do these things, and there's never a perfect time for anything. And yeah, I always said as well that I was going to go to Spain one day and learn Spanish, and 36 tomorrow, and I'm like, okay, and if not now, when? And
I
I just
just
think
love
sometimes
that.
you've got to do it.
You've essentially given yourself the gift of freedom, haven't you? And that is
Yeah,
the most rebellious thing, I think.
yeah.
Certainly in my eyes. Why Valencia, by the way?
So I've always had a love affair with Spain, just like always. And I was actually joking with a friend about this yesterday. Like, my granddad was that kind of like typical, love him, but like typical working class Brit abroad, where it's like we go to Alicante, we go to the same villa every year. I take my own bacon because I don't eat that foreign shit. And we go to Popeyes down the road, and I have 2 eggs and chips. And I think I just used to be so mortified by that. And then my granddad would be like, in the restaurant, being like, 2 egg and chips. And it's like, granddad, just because you say it slower doesn't
Or
mean they're going to
louder?
understand you. Yeah. That's still not understanding you. And I think that's when I was like, I need to learn Spanish. So anyway, I always had this love affair with Spain, and always had this like one day dream. And my ex-husband was like, no interest in learning languages. And yeah, we loved to travel, but he was like, I don't want to live abroad. And so it was always a one day kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I kind of badged it in my head of like, okay, well, one day when I'm successful, when I've made it, whatever the fuck that means,
Yeah, what?
then I'll move to Spain. And so yeah, when obviously, my whole world crumbled literally overnight, and I was like, right, I need to rebuild my life. I need to do something. And I was like, right, well, this is it. And it just so happened I had a friend who had taken a year's sabbatical, and she'd rented out a house. She took a sabbatical from work. She was traveling around Spain, learning the language in like different schools. And I just was like, shit, if she can do it, I can do it, because
Yeah.
I've got less obstacles than her. I don't have a boss that I have to negotiate with, and I don't have a house that I've got to rent out and sort out. And I was like, oh my God. And it kind of made me realize that I could do this. And I remember this so clearly. I was in Battersea in 2021 with my dad for Father's Day. He just happened to be in the country. And my dad I was like bitching about it. And my dad it was probably the fourth bottle of wine that did it. But my dad just was like, go, just go. And I was like,
Oh.
yeah, you're right. It is
Oh.
that simple sometimes. And
Did you wake
again,
up the next morning though and go, oh God, that means I've got to do it?
yeah, like shit, I'm moving to Valencia. So the reason why as well Valencia is because I didn't know that much about Spain. Like I don't know that many places, and I was like, I don't want to do Barcelona. It's a bit too big and a bit too touristy. I want to be able to practice my Spanish. I'm a city girl, so it has to be accessible as well. So like fly back to England and that. Valencia is just amazing. It's got everything you need. It's a small city, but it's also got a beach, it's got culture, nightlife, good food, like literally anything you want from a city it's got. And then my friend that I'd stole the idea of, she was actually in Madrid, and I was like, I don't want to completely write her sabbatical off. Like she's gone to get away, and then I'm there like, hello. So I was like, I'll choose another city, and that's how I ended up in Valencia. But ironically, she loved Valencia so much, she ended up in Valencia. So we had an
Oh.
overlap for about 4 months, which was lovely. But yeah, that's kind of how I
Wow.
ended up being an expat in Valencia. Yeah.
Wow. And I'm going to ask you a question that you might be unprepared for here. And you talked a lot there about, how you kind of realize that you can do what you want, basically. And I'm tempted to ask you, other than that, because that's a big thing. What are some of the biggest things, or the biggest thing do you think you've learned about yourself, or the biggest light bulb moment you've had in this whirlwind of the excuse me, last couple of years that you've had with your life completely, you know, changing?
Yeah.
What do you reckon that would be?
I think there's the usual things are things like you're stronger than what you think you are, and mindset's really important and stuff. But I think the thing for me really is taking control of the next step.
Right.
Because old Alice, the victim mindset, perfectionist Alice, was always waiting for the perfect circumstance. And I was a bit of a, when I achieve this, then I'll be happy. When I get that
so there's
promotion,
conditions to your happiness.
when I get the job promotion, I'll be happy. When I've earned more money, then I'll be happy. Hence the eating disorder. When I'm X amount of weight, I'll be happy. Then you get there and you're not happy. Oh, it must be a lower weight. And then over the years, I have changed that, and I've become much more about the journey and the learning and working on myself and being happy with who I am. And I think that's one of the reasons why, of course, having a husband walking out on you is like one of the most horrendous things. But I survived, and I do credit it to all the personal development work that I did prior, where I did love myself and do the self-worth and all that. Because had he done that maybe 6 years ago, I think I'd be an absolute wreck. Like, I'd be on the floor. And I was, but I got myself back up quicker than maybe what people anticipated.
Yeah.
So you can't choose what happens to you. I did not choose to get sacked from work. I did not choose for there to be a pandemic. I did not choose my husband to walk out on me. But it's like, right, what's the next step? And things like the pandemic, you know, I started my business like literally a couple of days before the pandemic. And it's like, right, okay, well, let's roll with it then. What can I do?
Yeah.
And same with my husband walking out on me. Okay, what can I choose? Okay, well, I can choose to move out and move abroad, something that I've always wanted to do. So I think that my biggest learning and lesson from this is not waiting for perfect situations, but just taking the next step, like just making it work. Even things like going to South America in February and March. Is that the ideal time? Probably not, because my March, April, May was so disruptive, getting my divorce, moving abroad, you know, all that kind of stuff. I didn't really focus on the business. So it's only in June that I've started to pick up the business again in terms of like creating new content, putting new programs together. So I'm only essentially giving my 6 months, and then I'm going to go backpacking and traveling and won't be doing anything for the. So logical Alice is going, oh, that's not the right time because but then that heart Alice is like, yeah, but you will make it work. You've got to choose your next steps, and you'll always find a way to make it work. You don't necessarily need to know the how all the time. Just know what you want, know your outcome, you know, set that intention, choose your next steps, and it will happen. Like it just, life has this magical way of somehow making it happen for you.
Yeah, that's so true. So I imagine you probably observe that perhaps with clients that have got this struggle between, you know, head and heart. How do you help them navigate that?
Yeah, again, for me, it always boils down to self-awareness. I think that is so important, because we have these internal battles in our head all the time. We just never vocalize it. Yes. So when we start vocalizing it and going, right, what's going on here, then we can start to unpick it. So funny enough, I just got off a call with a client, and this used to be me, so I so resonated with it. You know, her head is being like, right, you've got to be productive all the time. You're a business owner. If you're not pulling 14-hour days, then you're not successful. You're not working hard enough in your business. You're not starting work till 2 p.m, you lazy cow.
Destructive.
But that's like the head. That's the logic. That's the society driven, you know, you have to hustle and grind and get up at 5 a.m. But her heart is saying, no, I wanted the summer off with the kids. I want to do things like reading and journaling in the morning because that's good for my mental health. And her heart is telling her that, you know, her heart's telling her to look after her energy. And it was only when we started like vocalizing it that she suddenly had all these like light bulb moments where she's like, oh my God, that's why I feel guilty in the mornings for not working, or oh my god, I've associated my self-worth with my productivity, that's why I feel I've got to do a 14-hour day even though I don't have to. And then when we start talking about it, that's then when you're like, right, now we can find a solution for you, because we've got that awareness. But you can't start just throwing solutions at people. You've got to
Yeah.
have that awareness first. And that's what I love about coaching and working with my clients. It's like, okay, right, let's talk the problem through. What's going on here? What's the awareness? And then from that you can kind of find your solutions.
I love that. And I think that's probably one of the reasons why I've always really liked your style, because I mean, it's so easy, is it, that when you're given advice as a coach, you're told you need to create a recipe, a formula, and rinse and repeat it with people. And that, that doesn't work for me.
Don't
True
work
to
for me.
form, I am always a bloody exception to the rule. And, the silver bullet doesn't work for me like it does for everybody else. And I've been there, tried to squash myself into those formulas, those molds. It doesn't work for me. And I did at one point try and do the whole, powerful morning thing, get up at whatever and do a thing and then do another thing and then blah, affirmations and then you're ready for the day. I have really low testosterone levels in the morning, so it takes me a long time to get into the day. And I've also realized, particularly over the last year or so, that I'm actually quite vulnerable in the morning. I'm vulnerable to almost to attack, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Influences that
You're like a sponge, like
things can very easily knock me off kilter. And I do this really bad thing where the first thing I do when I wake up is check my phone, and I shouldn't do it. And I know I shouldn't, and I'm trying to become aware of it. But I have this rule where I kind of, me who doesn't like rules, I have this agreement, I suppose, that I've got with myself, that I don't do Zoom calls before 10 in the morning, because it takes me a long time to get into a mode in the morning. I don't get up early. I just have come to accept that doesn't suit me, unless I've got to be somewhere, and I can do that, but I can't do it every day. And years of doing that in my career, I found extremely hard. It takes me a while to come round. I want to do a little bit of recalibration before I have my first person to person situation. And I have come to accept that that's how I work. And I also do, wherever possible, and I'm quite disciplined at this, which is not, discipline is not normally a word that comes into my vocabulary when I describe my life. I have, I really try and do a 4-day week. So I have every other Monday and every other Friday off, which means that I get a long 4-day weekend every fortnight. That is incredible for me, because it helps me balance. And I get enough downtime that I don't feel I'm clawing my way to a holiday, or a week off or whatever it is. Now, I've told people, and loads of people, about that, and one of the most common responses I get is, "Oh yeah, great! I would like to condense my 5-day hours into 4 days." And I'm like, no, that's not what I do. I don't do 5 days of work in 4 days. Sometimes I might finish work at 2:00 in the afternoon. If I'm done and I'm spent and I can justify it, and it's not super urgent, I will walk away from it. If I feel I've hit that point, I will walk away from it. I'm really careful not to work too long hours unless I feel I'm in flow. And I think when you're running a business, particularly because your mind's always on it, that's, for me, that's incredibly important. And I've also learned not to beat myself up about needing more downtime. Than maybe some others do. I need a lot of downtime to rebalance.
And I think that downtime though is really important when you're doing like a service-based high energy job, because
people serving job, because if you love people and you genuinely want to do the right thing for them, you take that on so heavily.
And I'm constantly thinking about stuff, so I'll like listen to a podcast and go, oh, I must send that to Jackie will find that useful. So like your brain's always going. So for me, self-care is part of my business plan, like the meditation, the naps, my half-hour walk in the morning. You might go, well, Alice, that half hour, that's prime work time. You could be using that to like do emails, and it's like, no, that's my time where I download a ground, I calm and center myself, get my mindset right, and all that kind of thing. And it's when you're constantly giving to somebody, you need to top that
Yeah.
back up. So I actually see my self-care, my exercise, all that kind of stuff, like I see that as part of
Yeah.
my strategy, like my business strategy.
Totally.
I find it really interesting that with like your 4-day weekend, because I'm actually the opposite, and I would rather work a little bit every single day, because I noticed that with my energy, I'm better at drip feeding rather than working, taking 4 days off. Like
Right.
I've tried that and it doesn't work for me. So
That's
for me,
interesting.
even when I'm on holiday, I still like to do a little bit, because I actually don't work full, like let's say your average work day 7-8 hours. I rarely do that,
Right.
because I interject so much into my work days that's not work, whether that's like coffees with friends, or like learning Spanish, or going to the gym, or whatever. So I actually like working a little bit every day and spreading it out, but it's about
Right.
making it work for you, isn't it? So
I love
like I'm
that.
going to, yeah, and it's just, and it's about knowing that, isn't it? So like when I go to
Mm.
Seville in October with my dad, I'm going to work a little bit every day. I'm not taking 5 days off. And again, it's like how you reframe time off. Like what does that actually mean for you? So what I've classed it as is I will do a little bit of work every day, but I've also earmarked blocks of time where I want to do tourist shit, and I don't want to have to take my laptop. And I've actually pre-blocked that out in my calendar. And again, I'm going to do that when we go to Madrid, and we've got a couple of other trips and stuff booked. And again, when I go to Cambodia with my mum, I don't want to take 3.5 weeks, and Vietnam with my dad for a week. I don't want to take 5.5 weeks off. I want to work every single day, but I've chosen times where I'm going to be like, this is a no meeting time, this is project work time, this is sightseeing time. And I kind of like work my life like that, rather than
Mm.
days on, days off, if that makes sense.
It's fascinating that, isn't it, how we all tick differently. And
Yeah.
we live in a world that is traditionally tried to apply a model to us all. And it's no wonder we get frustrated, and we get people with mental issues, and, feeling like we don't fit in the world, and all
Yeah.
of
Like
those
round
things.
peg, square hole. Yeah.
Oh, totally. Yeah. And
Yeah.
I mean, that's fascinating to me. And I think if you have the freedom, or at least some freedom, to be able to experiment with these things, that can be
Yeah.
quite an interesting journey in itself. And
Yeah.
when you find the thing that works for you, oh, look at that. Have you just been delivered that cuppa, or have you got it off a
Oh,
shelf?
no, no. No, but you know
Looked
what?
like
Sometimes,
somebody had handed
do
it
you know
to
what?
you.
Do you know what? My nan sometimes does make me a little cup of tea. She makes me with a
Oh,
lemon water in the morning as well. She's very cute.
oh, bless her. Your nan sounds ace. The fact she's got that massive dream catcher up there is just brilliant. It's so cool. It looks like you're wearing a beautiful crown. But yeah, I think once you establish that thing, that formula that works for you,
Yeah.
and maybe nobody else on the planet, it makes you
Yeah.
much more productive, or much more likely to be productive in the
Yeah.
time in which you are working. Because I think if we're flogging our guts out for like 12 hours a day or whatever, I'm not aware of anybody that can be that level of productive for a sustainable amount
No,
of time. I think it's
no.
nonsense, to be
Yeah.
honest. I
Yeah.
know
And
some
also, I think
Claire
it
was
affects
smashing
mindset as well. So, for example, typically we would feel guilty working at the weekend because it's time off. But where I am at the moment in Valencia, the Spanish are late. Like, bedtime's 1 in the morning. They don't get up till late, especially at the weekend. So personally, I love getting up early on a Saturday, Sunday, taking myself off to a cafe and doing work, because the city is peaceful. I just love it. But the traditional sense, oh, you're working in the morning and on the weekend. What's wrong with you? Oh, you haven't got a very good work-life balance. But that's what I like to do. And actually, sometimes I like to take Wednesday afternoon off to go to the beach because it's quieter and I just want a midweek top up. And I don't feel guilty for that. But then sometimes if you really want to do some work, but you're going to feel guilty for it at the weekend, well, that's not good for your mindset. Like I've got client who loves doing his strategy stuff at the weekend. Well, off you go then.
Yeah.
Like, make it work for you.
See, I can definitely see that, like getting in a certain space. There's a friend of mine, Jo, who we toyed with the idea of something she used to do with friends, with getting together in a cafe somewhere and on a Saturday morning and just strategizing the business together.
Yeah.
And I love that idea. I also really like the idea of Spanish life. What time do they get up in the morning generally?
I don't know how they operate. So I've had to really shift like my living. So when I was in England, I used to get up at 6 a.m, whereas that is not happening in Spain. I generally typically go to bed after midnight in Spain now. Luckily, I don't start school till 9 and it's only down the road, so I generally get up about 7:30, and sometimes I have a little siesta in the afternoon as well, just because I come back from Spanish and I'm like
Yeah.
But yeah, they've got a very late way of living because they don't even go for dinner till like 10 or 11 at night, and I'm like,
Wow.
so
See,
yeah, it's
I
adjustment.
kind of like the sound of that, I must admit.
Yeah. Do you know what I think? Do you know your chronotype? Like, there's a book called The Power of When, and he talks about there being bears, wolves, lions, and dolphins. Now, the majority of the population is a bear, which is what I am, and that's your typical like 9 to 5. But I think, I can't remember the name of the chronotype, it's gone completely out of my head, but I reckon you're the chronotype that maybe it's a wolf. Yeah,
Spirit animal.
I think you might be a wolf, because that is where you like doing things later. It takes you a while to warm up in the morning.
Oh, I might check that out. Right, so what's that called then?
Oh, it's your chronotypes. So if you Google the book The Power of When and your different chronotypes, he does a quiz.
Amazing. Right, people, that's a good recommendation.
Yeah, it's a
Power
really good
of
book.
When. Love that. Well, that's gone by like it was 5 minutes. And
I know, time
hours.
flies when you're having fun.
It really does. So what would you say would be, not one tip for energy management necessarily, because we've already said we can't, do that, but what would you say would be one piece of wisdom that might help our rebels out there to get closer to being their full unapologetic self within the realms of what you've learned in life? That's a big question, isn't it, that I've definitely not warned you about.
Do you know what? I'm actually going to twist that slightly and give a practical tip.
Ooh.
That's one size fits all. And that is to do an audit. Because how do you know if you've never taken stock?
True.
So do an audit. I always get my clients to do it. Do a little audit and just notice what you notice. Are you raring to go at 8 in the morning and you flag at 2 p.m? Do you find admin just drains the shit out of you, but you love, me too, but you love, I don't know, strategizing? Like, just do a bit of an audit on yourself, because then you can notice the patterns and then you can start doing something about it.
So true. So would you recommend people track that, like journal it, that kind of thing?
I personally am a geek. I love an Excel sheet, but I've had clients journal it or just notice key things like, oh, I'm noticing that 2 p.m. I'm feeling really sleepy, and I'll just make a little note of it. Or it just could be how you're feeling as well. Like, oh God, after this meeting, I always feel shit. It's just that particular meeting that maybe that's an energy drainer. Just notice what you notice, because then you can start making personal tweaks to things in a really personalized way. But you can't do that if you don't know what's draining you or filling you, or what your peaks and troughs are, or whatever.
So true. I this really beautifully links to the work we've done with Samantha Garstin recently, the menstrual coach, and this concept of, she did an amazing masterclass for us in Rebel Yell Club the other week. And she has a cycle tracker and all of this stuff, and it's not just for people who are menstruating, it's for you can cycle track with the moon.
You could do it with the moon. And
so I've been tracking now for a couple of months or so, and I've noticed some really interesting patterns. And I think if you're doing that kind of audity tracky thing, you have to do it for a good length of time, don't you, to really start to see the patterns. And remember, you know, what the circumstances are that you're experiencing around that, and all of that stuff. And you know, that's for any gender, really, isn't it? And
oh my god, absolutely. And then you can start like planning in. So for example, if I've got a client who has to sometimes go into London to do face-to-face events, and the next day she is drained, and I'm like, well, maybe that's the day that you don't have loads of meetings on Zoom, and now she's booked the next day out, and she will work. She just hasn't got the energy to come on Zoom. It's more admin, behind the scenes emails, and so she's still being productive. She's just switched it to match her energy.
Do you know, I think we need to have another conversation at some point about boundaries, because this is one of the biggest things that I think people, you know, struggle with, and this concept of really protecting time and not having other people creep into it. That's a weird word. And you know, all of those things. We could talk for hours, couldn't we?
No, boundaries are so important. That's something that I cover on the program, because I'm just like, all about the boundaries, man. All about the boundaries.
I think there's some work we should do together at some point, you know. Well, thank you very much, Alice Dartnell, and as usual, full name.
Sounds like I'm in trouble.
Always. I'm going to sort of close our space up, and hopefully there'll be, you know, lots of rebels that really enjoy this, because I definitely have done, and it's really made me think about some stuff, actually. So thank you very much.
Amazing. Thanks so much for having me.
You're welcome. And I'll put links in so you know how to get hold of Alice and take advantage of the brilliant stuff she's doing. Thank you, rebels. See you.
Thank you.